Welcome to this week's episode of The Second Scoop. I'm Chris Cheng, here to give you this week's Big Gun News. This week's top story: congressional Democrats introduced legislation to reinstate the federal ban on standard magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Now, we've been on this merry-go-round before with the 1994 to 2004 federal assault weapons ban, and how much good did it do to prevent or reduce crime? It did zero. So, not only will this law be ineffective if it does pass, but with Republicans in charge of both houses of Congress, the likelihood that this legislation will even make it past a first or even second committee vote is highly unlikely. But this is a clear reminder that there are those at the federal level who still want to strip you of our constitutional rights. In our second story, soon-to-be former Attorney General Eric Holder had an interview with MSNBC where he noted that his single failure during his 6-year tenure as Attorney General was the failure to pass gun control legislation. But obviously it's no wonder it failed, because the legislation was just poorly written, it was a bad idea, and if the legislation had targeted something like, let's say, fixing the NICS system, which is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, and something like fixing NICS would have done something to actually keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Boo-hoo, Attorney General Eric Holder, we are very excited to see you go. This week's good gal with a gun story brings us to Cumming, Georgia, where local authorities report that an older woman was asleep in her home and she was awoken by a noise in her house. 2 robbers, a male and a female, actually got into a gunfight with this older woman, who thankfully was armed. She engaged the 2 robbers in gunfire in her house. The older woman was actually shot multiple times, but thankfully she made it to a local hospital and is expected to survive. And so here we have yet another case of a lawful citizen who was armed and able to protect herself. I'm glad it's looking like she's going to be okay. The video of the week takes us to NRA's Women's Network with Natalie Foster and her show, Love It First Shot. Foster's show promotes the shooting sports to women and helps them understand what it's like to go to a gun range, how to properly and safely operate a firearm, and show women why the shooting sports are not only so much fun, but Foster also shows why firearms are the great equalizer and are an excellent choice of a weapon for women to use in self-defense. Check out Love It First Shot at the link below. Well, that's it for this week's episode of The Second Scoop. I'm Chris Cheng, and thanks as always for watching.